All right, BugeyeBob back here again, and this week we're getting into a mess. I have spent a couple of days working on getting the doors installed and trying to get the gaps around the doors right, and yeah, there's a problem. And it has to do with the replacement inner A-pillars and the replacement outer A-pillars. So let's take a look and see what kind of mess we got going on here. So I've tried to get this gap fairly consistent. It's about 1/8 of an inch along through here. It looks kind of nice. This down here is a little bit more than 1/8 of an inch, but it gets this top right here. This looks real good right here. So we're good along here. We're good along most of this down here. And we're good up in this corner. And one of the things you got to remember is when you're adjusting the door, you've got these four corners, and those four corners can move in 3 different directions. So this corner can go in or out, actually 6 directions. In, out, up, down, left, right. On each one of these corners of the door. So the only really adjustment you have is you've got the adjustment for the pin that holds the door latch, and you have the 2 hinges that go here and here, and the adjustments on those hinges are you can move them up and down, you can move them in and out slightly, and you can move the door this way and on the hinge. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to get all of these things into balance. And let's get into the problem. So now if we come in close, one of the things you'll notice is this is pretty good right here. Now I've put a red line here because I think I might have to grind some of this out. But right now, one of the problems I'm running into is this lines up pretty good here. This is kind of tight right here, but not terribly bad. But what I do run into a problem with is this is in further than what you would expect, which kind of suggests this needs to come out some, like that, which I can probably bring that out a little bit. That's not really a big deal. But where the real problem is at is right along in here. This is tilted a little bit so that this is out a little bit from what it needs to be. But the distance between where the door hinge itself hits and I'm going to move around here. This plate right here is what the door screws in, what the door hinge screws into. Okay, so right now, this right here is the actual door hinge itself. It's up tight against this piece of metal, and you can see, try this one more time. So this right here is the door hinge itself, and I'm actually in one of the holes for the door hinge right there. Here's another one. No, I'm not. There's the hole for the door hinge. So that can come out a little bit like that. This is the plate that the hinge screws into. You can see the hinge right there where I'm pointing. But the problem is, right now that door hinge is up tight against this. It's pushed back as far as it can be into the door itself. And look what we've got right there. This is where the flush is for the front of the vehicle, or for the front of the dash. And you can see that that is pushed out probably a good 1/8 of an inch, which forces this plate out. So what causes that problem? These pieces go on each side and enclose the inner A-pillar and make everything look all pretty on the outside. And one of the problems I ran into, so this is the piece from the driver's side, and that thickness right there is about 1 3/4 inches. This is the piece from the passenger side, and this side is a good 3/16, almost 3/8 of an inch thicker in here to here. So see what happens if I hold these two up against each other. Look at that right there. Those two pieces are vastly different in size. You can see I've got the tops almost perfectly lined up. This edge here doesn't line up with this one here. If I line up those edges here and here like that, you can see that this is visibly thicker here. And in fact, if you look at the inside of this, you look at the inside of this right here, there's a good 3/16 of an inch where this piece, when it was spot welded together, was not done right. That needs to come around and in more. Basically, what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to cut the spot welds in here on this outer piece, and then reshape this piece so that it comes in more, and then spot weld it back together again. Irritating as all hell to have to do that, but not surprising that I have to do that. The problem is, it's kind of like you got to have these in place to get the door in place, but you got to have the door in place to get these in place. So it's one big damn catch-22. There's a tiny spot in the process someplace where I can turn around and fix that. And then once I get these set right, I need to put a filler piece in here to anchor this to this, and this needs to be anchored down to this so that everything's locked in right. Okay, so lesson. Had I inspected these parts when they first came in, I bought these probably a year ago. Had I inspected these parts when they first came in very carefully, I would have noticed that this was spot welded out of place, that this panel was bad. Can't send it back to the vendor now because it's been way too long. And I put holes in it and things like that. Had I noticed it, had I paid attention and inspected the parts when I first got them, could have done that. So, lesson, inspect your parts when you get them, these third-party parts, when you get them from your supplier. If you find anything wrong with them, get back with them and work with them so that they can make it right. I'm sure that the vendor that supplied these parts to me, had I sent them an email saying, hey, look, this is spot welded wrong, they would have sent me the proper part and taken care of it. They're a very reliable supplier. They have a good reputation. As far as other lessons, I had welded in a frame to hold everything in place in this car while I was replacing the inner and outer sills and other parts on the car. I'm pretty certain that stayed pretty much in place based upon the fact that when you hang the doors on the body, the top front of the doors and the top rear of the doors all fit pretty good. One of these doors, the one on the passenger side, where I did the repair in this lower right corner, I don't think I got that curve right. What I should have done is I should have cut a gauge that had the exact same curvature before I cut that piece out. If I'd cut a gauge out of cardboard, was there a piece of cardboard? Hell, I don't know. But anyways, if I had cut a gauge out of cardboard that showed what that curvature was, and I'm going to get into making those gauges probably next week. If I had made a gauge that had that curve in it, then I would have made sure that this lower corner here fit right. As it is, I think it's got to go back in. I may have to cut this out and bend that piece and put it back in again. I don't know. I think I can probably adjust it the way it is, but we'll find out. Yeah, it's just irritating as all hell when you have to go back and find out that your parts don't fit a year later after you've bought the damn things. But again, that's probably nobody's fault but my own. So that's pretty much it for this week, folks. Is there a lot of brilliant activity in it? No, but there's a lot of information in that. There's a lot of things that tell you what to look out for. I honestly don't know why every body man, including, specifically the guys that hang the doors, I don't know why they're all not alcoholic crackheads. Because when you think about all the different ways that you've got to adjust those doors to get that door gap right, it's a lot of work. I mean, there's a lot of, because you move it one way and that can kick another part out. Well, then you want that part to move back in, but that'll kick another part out. So, it's kind of a bizarre dance, I guess you could call it. No stories this week, but there will be some in the future. You'll just have to kind of pay attention and listen. So, like, share, subscribe, comment, ask questions. You got a better idea on how to fix this stuff? Let me know, because I don't. I'm just kind of going blind on this and basing what I'm doing on the dozens of videos that I've seen on YouTube of how other people deal with these sorts of things. And quite frankly, I'm kind of reaching the point where I'm looking at it going, you know what? That sumbitch is unique. And maybe that's the really cool thing about it is it's not $1 million, one-of-a-kind car that's ever going to show up on Barrett Jackson's auctions, but it is unique. And it'll be even more unique when I'm done with it. So stay tuned. Like I said, like, share, comment, subscribe. Join up on Patreon if you can, $4 a month, I think it is. Subscribe here. If you want to help support fixing this rascal Lazarus here, if you want to support the resurrection of Lazarus, then you don't want to do a subscription, there's a link down below for PayPal, and you can buy me a cup of coffee. Do a one-time donation or a recurring donation down there through PayPal. All help greatly appreciated. And over and out for now. And BugeyeBob over and out. You folks have a fantastic and blessed life.